I do not know this for a fact, but I'm just looking at what I see and what I know, and I think that Chris Pratt may be getting a raw deal here. What we're talking about is a photo that came out a couple days ago of Chris walking with his bride, Katherine Schwarzenegger, out, and he's wearing a T-shirt with the American flag with a rattlesnake over it, and it says "Don't tread on me" underneath it. It's kind of, I call it a mashup of Old Glory and the "Don't Tread on Me" flag from what, 1775, I think?
It's called the Gadsden flag.
Yeah, from the original colonies. Now, the original "Don't Tread on Me" flag, which is a yellow background, has been adopted by, sounds like the same story we heard with the Colin Kaepernick and the Nike shoes.
With the Betsy Ross flag.
Yes, but it has been adopted by some alt-right groups and even some white supremacist groups. So, some people, now when I say some people, there is I think it was UK, Yahoo in the UK.
Right, it was UK.
That did an article about that photo and said that Chris Pratt is
embracing the white supremacists.
Right. And certainly there were people who commented and felt and agreed with that. I don't know that. I think that's taken this a little too far, but nonetheless, it's a topic of conversation because it is on his chest and it does say, "Don't tread on me," and even though it is not the traditional "Don't tread on me" flag. So, look, all we do know about Chris Pratt is he is conservative. We know that. But anything beyond that, I think is
a gigantic leap. Yeah, it's a gigantic leap.
Yeah. But this, like I said, this is very much like what happened with the Betsy Ross Nike shoe.
Right. I mean, the reality is that a lot of these sort of symbols are evolving and shifting, and it can become problematic, I should say, when these sort of extremist groups start to take ownership of these symbols to represent their causes, right? I mean, and also we should mention, the "Don't Tread on Me" flag was also used by the Tea Party movement back in 2010. So, I mean, it has sort of been shifting as a symbol over the past 9 years, really. But of course, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's endorsing any of those messages. But I think it just raised a lot of questions for people who saw it and maybe are sensitive to what what those symbols are and what they mean when taken by, again, extremist groups.
Yeah, and look, the reality is that Chris Pratt may be
we have no reason to believe,
seeing all those articles and going like, wow, I didn't even know.
We have no reason to believe that Chris Pratt harbors any ill will towards anyone, that he's a white supremacist. He's never shown anything like that.
Right.
However, in a time where these things are, like Sean said, where these symbols are shifting and stuff like that, maybe this is actually good for Chris Pratt, that he understands that some people might have an opinion of that particular flag or whatever. And he can decide whether or not it's a big enough deal for him to stop wearing it, or if it's negligible to him, that he can continue to wear it.
The thing that really worries me is that if white supremacists and groups like white supremacists get the feeling that they can co-opt anything they want and all of a sudden it becomes out of bounds, it empowers them. It's like it really empowers them. And what are they going to co-opt next? And they start thinking, oh, we're going to take something that's at the core, at the core of real American values, and we're going to take it for ourselves. And then everybody's going to be scared to use it too. And they just start doing that and eating away.
Something like perhaps the White House. Well, I think what some of the stuff that you're seeing is people being on guard and being extra sort of trepidatious about situations like this because
some
of
the
a troubling trend.
Some of the things you hear coming
in
out of
the
White
last
House.
couple of years in America,
Good people on both sides.
Totally troubling trend. But then the question is, do you want to empower them and say, hey, start taking stuff and making it yours so we're afraid to use it? It feels really worrisome to do that.
I think that you would say,
what are they going to take next?
Well, I think that you would say that they're being empowered by that.
I absolutely would say they're being empowered by that.
Right. I think
everyone is. But the other way to look at it is that people are aware of it, and they want them to know we're aware of this.
And
we're not saying you can have it.
We're seeing what you're doing, and we're defining it here, and we're stopping it there.
Right. What we're doing. But hold on. But what we're saying is we're seeing what you're doing, and you take something, then we won't use it anymore.
I don't know if
That's
anyone.
the problem.
I don't know if anyone's saying that. I don't know. I haven't heard. To be honest with you, this was the first I had heard about the Gadsden flag, so I wouldn't have known that.
I didn't know that it was being used, just like I didn't know the Betsy Ross flag was being used.
At the same time, though, when we have a situation like this, it then lends itself to conversation about those images, what the perception of what they mean and what they actually mean, and whether or not they have a place. And that conversation is okay. We don't have to be scared to have that, and we don't have to like treat it like some kind of protected case. Like, there's nothing wrong with asking Chris Pratt what he meant by wearing the shirt. Nothing. Zero.
No, I disagree. I mean, I think that at a point it's saying, do you beat your wife?
It's not the same thing. Number one, we're talking about symbols. Okay, symbols.
If it's a symbol.
Well, if it's a symbol, but people have symbols, and so you can ask someone. If I see someone wearing a symbol that is associated with the group, I can say, "Oh, yo, what's that about?"
I get it.
And by the way, it's inappropriate to ask somebody if they beat their wife it's just out of the realm of whatever.
Just out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere. Yeah, like what are you talking about?
If their wife walked in with a black
bruises
eye,
all over her face. And there was some reason that you would ask.
That's actually a good one.
Because the symbol would be, the symbol that I'm seeing is the black eye that she has.
That's actually a good one.
Right.
That if somebody walks in, do you say to them, did you beat your wife?
What?
No.
It depends on the situation.
Again, that's why I'm saying. Why did you bring up the battered spouse thing?
No, the reason it's a classic legal.
Weird thing.
This is actually a really fundamental classic thing. I wish Jason were here. That they talk about. Because they talk about this all the time in cross-examination in court. But my only issue with this is, look, at a point, there are symbols that are clearly.
But the issue in court is about relevance, right? So when someone brings that up in court, and you might say, objection, it's irrelevant. So okay.
But
by the way,
if you're okay asking Chris Pratt when he wears that T-shirt, by the way, are you a white supremacist?
No. I mean, if you ask the question that way, like.
But what do you say?
He's like, Chris, did you know that symbol is being used by certain groups?
Exactly. And then you get his answer. No, I didn't espouse that. I wear this shirt because of its roots in the American Revolution and how I feel about it.
But then you need a tag saying, here's why I'm wearing the shirt.
No, you don't.
But we're saying that he made. Okay. Reagan.
I just disagree.
Just save us.
I'm Libby Westfall from Leesburg, Virginia. Chris Pratt, I'm not buying it. I don't think that he's a white supremacist. I think that he's got a flag on his shirt showing he has some American pride. And then the underlying message of the don't tread on me has to do with don't mess with me. That's what his message is. It's not rooted in white supremacy nor racism.
It's literally rooted in a message to
government.
To England.
Also, I will say this,
to England. To England.
I will say this,
though. The colonies.
Christopher Gatson, the guy who designed it, what can we say about him? Big time slave owner.
Who's that? Gadsden?
They're like big time slave owner, so it all comes back to it.
But I mean, the problem with that is the whole country is rooted in that.
Right.
So
that's not a problem. That's not a problem for me. That's a problem for you.
Well, no, it's a problem.
I know that.
Right. No, I knew it too.
Right.
But then the question is, what do you do? Then everything is under suspicion.